Let me thank everybody for coming tonight, and I'd please like to move on to agenda item number 2, which is the General Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me now? We're better? All right. Sorry about that earlier. Last meeting, we had a few comments and questions from the audience. 3 members commented on the display cabinets in the main clubhouse. These display cabinets are designed to be equal and equitably shared between the members of the association. The Recreation Director is taking the lead on this to bring a suitable resolution to all. A member commented on the water issues within the state and asked what owners can do to help conserve water. The Board of Directors has appointed an ad hoc water committee to address this very topic. Please be looking forward to action this committee will be taking. Just an update on reserves and reserve expenditures. The association was allocated to spend roughly $1.2 million this year in reserve projects. These are projects that are assigned to be replaced this year by the reserve analyst. What we're actually looking at coming in this year is right around $800,000. That's thanks to good negotiating by the staff and the board, as well as some of these items being deferred into other years. They just didn't need to be replaced this year. So I wanted to update you that we're coming in looking very good on reserves this year. At this time, I'd ask that our Director of Operations, Mark Schleiden, step up. He's going to give you some update on some of the current projects taking place within the community. Mark?
Good evening. My name is Mark, and I'm with the Operations Department. And a couple of things that are ongoing at this time throughout the community. We've got the transponder program that's going to be wrapping up here at the end of July. We've issued just over 6,000 at this time. And we'd first of all like to thank all the volunteers that have been a part of that program. So we greatly appreciate your time that you've put forward towards that. The painting of the walls throughout the community. We are on the east end of the property now at Highland Home. What's left is the Gate 4 entry and the RV lot, the perimeter of the RV lot. Trees are being skinned at this time at Gate 3. That's the palm trees. They are being skinned and trimmed. That's Gate 3, 4, 5, and 6. Also, I believe all of you have received your letters pertaining to the seal coating for the street project that's upcoming. That's going to include District 7, 8, 9, and 10. Also, the administration parking lot is going to be a 3-day project, broke up over 3 days, so we'll have entry, but it will be limited. That project will begin on July 8th, and it'll end on the 16th. So a total of 5 working days, and I know the letter said roads are closed from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. the following morning. If the seal coat is dry the day of, we will reopen those roads. And once again, if anybody's got an issue getting in and out of their homes through those projects, we will accommodate your needs. So call the operations department. We'll get you in and out of your places as needed. And once again, just busy, 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 and I thank the time to spend here. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Allow me to conclude a few of the items on the report with the incident reports for the last month. Sun Lakes Country Club gates logged 30,635 entries. 30,000 times those gates went up and down. Amazing. Community Patrol logged 6,213 miles on the 2 vehicles. 162 incident reports were filed. 46 citations were issued. 117 emergency reports filed. 210 garage door checks. 1 gate arm was broken. Very good. 5 process servers entered the property, and Banning PD was called on site 18 times. The delinquency report. The monthly activity. This month, 11 owners received a monthly reminder letter totaling $9,175. 5 owners received a pre-lien or intent to lien letter totaling $5,790 in assessments. Our cumulative running totals, 6 owners currently have a lien placed against their Sun Lakes property totaling $15,227 in assessments and fees. 8 owners are currently at the association's delinquency collection attorney totaling $42,108. Combined total delinquencies, $72,301 through the last day of the month. Total delinquent properties at Sun Lakes is now 30, or 0.90% of 3,327. Mr. President, that concludes the report.
Thank you very much. May I have a report on the executive session actions, please?
Yes, good evening, everybody. The Board of Directors held executive session board meetings on June 4th, 2015 at 1:30 p.m. and on June 25th, 2015 at 1:30 p.m., at which time litigation, member discipline, formation of contracts, and personnel matters were discussed. The board instructed legal counsel on certain litigation, potential litigation, and assessment of related matters. The board received and considered legal advice on litigation and potential litigation issues. The board received and considered a refund request from a homeowner on the 2015 golf dues. The board approved the golf refund as it fell within the refund policy. The board reviewed 3 different resident requests for a parking variance. After careful consideration, the board denied all 3 parking variances. The board received and considered 3 proposals for the replacement of the ballroom audio-visual equipment. This equipment includes the main stage projector, 6 portable speakers, and the main spotlight. The board approved the replacement from Studio 33, who was the low bidder, for $23,959. These items were due to be replaced through reserves and will be paid from the reserve account. The board's ad hoc committee, who is working on the speed enforcement policy within Sun Lakes, made an initial presentation. After careful consideration, the board decided to send the policy to the association's legal counsel for review. The board discussed the proposed City of Banning golf cart path down Sun Lakes Boulevard. After further investigation, the City of Banning informed Sun Lakes that it will not be taking action at this time to create the golf cart path down Sun Lakes Boulevard. The board received and reviewed a request for a variance to the temporary age restriction requirement. After careful consideration, the board approved the request. The board received a resident request for a payment plan. After reviewing the matter carefully, the board denied the payment plan. The board reviewed and discussed the resolution to forward 3 delinquent member assessment accounts to the association's delinquency collection attorney. The board approved sending 2 of these accounts to the collection attorney, as one of them has been brought current by the meeting date. The board received and reviewed 3 proposals for the refurbishment of the main clubhouse ballroom banquet chairs. The board approved the refurbishment for the ballroom chairs with J. Smith Upholstery, who was the lowest bidder, for the amount of $9,351. This will include the refurbishment of 350 damaged chairs. The chairs were due to be replaced through the reserves and will be paid from the reserve account. This concludes the report on executive session actions.
Thank you very much. We have the mayor of Banning, Ms. Debbie Franklin here. Would you like to say a few words?
Good evening to the board and to the residents. Just a couple of things I wanted to share with you about what's happened this past week for the City Council. On Tuesday, we approved our budget, and we are just a little under being able to balance it. Our overall budget, which includes all of our utilities, is over $90 million. Our general fund is right around $14 million. So to be 42,000 off is not a lot, and we have a very conservative budget. So we're hoping that we'll be able to just balance that by the end of the year. Within our budget, we agreed to increase our staff by 7.8 employees, which includes 3 more people for the police department. That was a big concern throughout the community. We will gradually be adding them, but we do have it in the budget to do that. In addition to approving our budget, we also approved our goals and objectives for this next few years. I just want to tell you what they are very briefly. They were 10 pages of notes, so I'll just list them. The first one was economic development. The second is beautification of the city. The third is effective communication. The fourth is public health and safety, which includes our police, fire, emergency preparedness, and things like that. And fifth was administrative efficiency and effectiveness. And that includes having our city hall be more effective and responsive to our business and residents, as well as doing things like installing electric smart meters starting in 2016. So we did talk about a lot of things that we wanted to do. Our agenda was very small. It was only 961 pages. And we did say that our goals and objectives are it's going to be a living document, so there will be changes, and we are anticipating getting regular updates, hopefully every 3 or 4 months. So the public will be able to hear that because we will do it through our city council meetings. A lot of questions have been asked about water. We are very concerned about how we make sure we get the word out to everybody. Staff is working on additional communications. In your last utility bill, you should have seen a little handout about ways to conserve water. They're doing more. We're going to be having information on the website. It'll be coming to you through the newspaper. We're utilizing every opportunity we can to be able to effectively share with you what we're asking residents to do and then how well we're doing to meet the governor's requirements. We actually have a water alliance. It's made up of 13 water districts. We actually meet here in Banning once a month. We are doing the same thing through this water alliance to try to make sure that throughout the area, we're sending the same message that everybody should be conserving, not because there's a drought, but because it's the right thing for everybody to do. So you may see other information coming out. One of the things we've talked about and people have had a lot of concern about is whether or not we offer a turf removal rebate program. We do not. In fact, out of the 13 water districts, there's only one that actually offers it, and it's a very limited program. If you see advertisements from a company called Turf Terminators, they are a legitimate company. They do it, but they don't do it out here because you can only apply to their program if you have actual rebate program in your area. I'm going to switch a little bit. I just want to brag a little bit about our city. Saturday, we had our first annual Stagecoach Barbecue out at Dysart Park. As hot as it was, we had 29 people come out to compete. They were rated through the Kansas City whatever professional barbecue group. Second place went to a young man who lives here in Banning, and they said that's outstanding because he competed against the best of the best. And these are people that travel across the country to compete. So he did a really nice job, and I know that we all should be proud because this was a really good event for the city. It was very hard to get the event, but now that they've got it, they're going to try to keep it as an annual event. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions? None? Thank you very much.
She does the same thing to us in meetings. Do you have any questions? Next agenda item, please. I will say that one of the things she talked about was the budget having to do with many of the things we heard in the focus groups that were all around town, and one was here. And almost all those focus groups, we heard somebody step up and say, why are we doing this? You've done it before, and nobody's ever paid attention to it, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, in fact, this budget does reflect much of what we heard in those focus groups, and we thank the community for that. The other thing that she talked about was what we're doing with staffing and so forth. Starting in September, the City Hall will be open 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So that's another thing we heard in the focus groups, and it's one of the things that we've done. So thank you very much for coming, Debbie. I appreciate it. Pass area reports. None? Okay. Moving on to sub-association reports. Lakeside? Lakeside 2.
Members of the board, members of the audience, my name is Carol Palmer. I just have one thing to report. We completed the refurbishment of our shower at the pool area in Lakeside 2 with new tile and fixtures and grab bar, and it'll be open to the residents of Lakeside 2 tomorrow. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Fairway Villas. Thank you for being here. Delegate Assembly. Thank you. We'll go to committee reports. Finance Advisory Committee? No report. Thank you. Golf Advisory Committee? No report. Library Advisory Committee? They always have a report.
Hi, I'm Russell Anderson, and I have the good fortune to be the chairman of the Library Committee. How many people here use the libraries? How many people here like the libraries? How many people here have noticed any changes recently in the libraries? Let me summarize for you what's going on. The Library Committee has been trying to do changes this year, and we're going to continue to move in that direction. Some of the things that we've been doing is we've added shelving to the South Clubhouse. We're going to be adding additional books down there. We think that right now it's not being utilized, it's underutilized. We discovered a set of children's books that were hidden away in a drawer in the North Clubhouse. Nobody knew they were there, so we took them out and we brought them over here and we put them into the paperback library. So whenever you have some of your grandkids over here for a visit and you want to have a children's book to read, go into the paperback library up against the window on the left side of the little table, and you'll see them there. We also recently added a set of classics to the North Clubhouse to go along with many new editions of our nonfiction and biographies that are there. In the paperback library of the main clubhouse, we've added a significant number of large print books. Has anybody noticed the extra large print books? Back in that corner near the window, across the aisle from where the large print books used to be, we've added probably 100 large print books. So if you've not gone over to borrow a book because you've already read the entire library, well, you haven't, because we've added new books and we're going to continue to add new books. So this is a year of change and growth, and we want to continue to make this library something you can use and enjoy using. So, how many people know about a book fair? What happens in a book fair? One of the things that happens in a book fair is we take our existing older books that are no longer deemed viable to have on the shelves. We need more room on the shelves to put new books up, new acquisitions, so that when you go to the library, you're going to see new things there. So one of the things we do is during a book fair, we sell extra books that are just cluttering things up. I can't say that word, cluttering things up. So we're trying to unclutter the shelves to make room for new books for you to borrow. So we hope that that works for you. We have a book fair on Saturday, July the 4th, beginning at 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. in the main clubhouse library. We hope that you'll come by and support your library, because without your support, nothing works. And this whole business is about you. We want you to be able to borrow books that you enjoy reading and that are fun, that take you to a new world. But the last thing I want to tell you is, what's the one thing we've been advertising at every one of our book sales? Is anybody? Free cookies. Well, there will be free cookies again. So we're also contemplating changing it to donut holes. How many people would rather have donut holes than cookies? Or even the whole donut. Anyway, thank you, and we hope to see you at the book fair. Tell all your friends, come and get the books, and we're going to have some really big discounts for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that new section. You finally have some books that I'm able to read. The children's section. Lifestyles Advisory Committee.
That would be me. Charlene Fink, Chairman of Lifestyles Committee. Did you see this month? Was that something to put on your coffee tables and get your interest? July issue should be out at your home this weekend, and please read it. It has all the information you need so that you don't have to say, when was that? How did I miss it? Okay, read. Second thing is, remember, any rule changes that our board approves will be published in the Lifestyles, and that's where you will find it. There was one this month on page 6. So any rule changes will be published here. Thank you. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. Maintenance and Landscape Advisory Committee. Marketing Advisory Committee. Master Architectural Committee. Recreation Advisory Committee. RV Storage Advisory Committee. Restaurant Lounge Advisory Committee. Safety and Security Advisory Committee. Bingo Advisory Committee. And then we have one new one. It is not a permanent committee. It is as needed. The Water Community Ad Hoc Advisory Committee.
During your last meeting, good evening, during your last meeting, you wanted to formulate a committee on water advisory, and we put together a committee, and we come down with 5 people, but one of them resigned already. He was the chairman of the committee. So I'm taking over for him, so I'm stepping in. We came up with 2 mission statements. One was to provide the Sun Lakes residents on the regulations from banning on how we're to restriction of water. Second mission statement would be how to recommend ways of saving water and banning, in Sun Lakes. We had a meeting with the gentleman from Banning Water Department, Mr. Arturo Villa. He's the director of Public Works Department, and he said to us that there will be something coming out within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think Debbie's talked about this, providing information on the new regulations and how to save water. So basically, we're doing the same thing. But what we're looking at is just what applies to Sun Lakes. Because if you look at the regulations by banning that's coming out, they talk about swimming pools, they talk about commercial, but we're focusing in on just the residents. We put together something that, and right now it's being typed up by PMC, Nicole, and we're expecting something this week. And by July 6th, we hope to have all the information given to the board to look at, to see whether or not you agree with that or if you want to make any changes. One of the things that we're concerned about is how do we get the information out? Are we going to use Lifestyles? Are we going to do a mailer? Or are we going to use the Life magazine that we have? That's something to look at. But this information will be given to you. And also tonight, somebody mentioned to me something about helping with reading or changing the meters for the water.
Timer.
Some of the people here don't know how to do that.
Not the
And
meters,
I guess
the
apparently
timers.
that's something that I just learned about tonight. So basically, we can look into that and get the information, but I need to talk to somebody from administration on what they want to do about that issue. Can they help us out? Because there will be people calling, and I know they're going to want to know how to adjust their sprinkler systems. Myself, I use my landscaper. I couldn't figure it out myself. Anyway, is there any questions from the board? Anybody? Yes. At this point of time, no, because we're not involved with landscaping. We're just talking about exactly. Mostly our concern is educate you how to save water on your house, such as, using, different force controls and that kind of stuff. But basically, we're not into landscaping. That's something that's got to be talked about with the board. Right. As of right now, we're still a new committee. We're not approved until tonight. So, and by the way, if it's up to the board, I would like to have another member, if we could find one, The last meeting, we only had 2 people at the meeting. So that
Okay.
if there's something interesting, if we can get some more people on the board, if somebody would like to volunteer, we would like to welcome them on board.
We'll
George?
We'll get with you on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Jim?
It,
That was determined that came out from the I guess banning, which
Yeah.
recommended. Is Debbie here?
no, she left.
She left.
It was the Public Works Director who runs the water department. It was just his way of saying even odd, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which means you would not be watering on Saturday and Sunday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and you're not watering on, you're always going to have a 2-day gap when you do that every other day thing.
We are.
I,
We are. If you consider, oh,
I can tell you, and I think Frank, Art, when he met with you from the city, pretty well told you this too. They're not out chasing down us.
No,
And
they,
if
said
you
they're not
want to
gonna have
water
enough-
every other day, they're not going to be concerned about that. The city is not going to come out here and look at a resident who, in looking at their bill, they can see that they're not being guzzlers. They're going to come out and get the ones who have done nothing at all. So the city's not going to give you a problem for going every other day. No, I didn't, I don't.
Yeah. Jim, Arturo, the gentleman I talked to from Public Works Department, told me they're not going to have a Nazi squad going around checking to see that if you've got any leaking water, that type of thing. Most of our lawns are being watered at night. I don't think the city hall is open at night. I don't see anybody from Sun Lakes being investigated by somebody from Banning at 5 o'clock in the morning. There, as you can see, the staff is minimal. He told me that they're still training their staff on how it applies. What they're going to look at, one of the things they're looking at is the usage. If you have, if you're using, one person's using 7 and the other person's using 20, they might question that. That's what they're looking at. He's saying they look at the whole Banning as one. They have a population, and based on that population, what the average water use is. And if you're way over, then they're going to come and see you. But that's basically what he said. So they're not going to, this is not a like, they're going to come around and check you and everything. So if you water your grass on Saturday at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd be very surprised if somebody from Banning coming out looking at your lawn and see if you're watering it at that. But he told me those were the guidelines they set out. Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. George, anything else?
Well, just one thing, he mentioned meters. Don't mess with your meter, that is against the law. What we're talking about is fixing timers, not meters. You start messing with your meter, you could end up in a problem.
Yeah, George, one other thing, George, I forgot to mention, was that when we do this brochure or this information brochure, we need to incorporate that into the orientation package for any new homeowners when they come in, so they'll know that what their requirements are and they're aware of what needs to be done.
That's fine.
And
No, I'm sure that'd be agreeable, but we'll talk, we'll get with you guys when you get your whole program put together.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. So is everybody just as confused as I am? In essence, the bottom line is the city's not coming out here looking and inspecting every lawn. I can tell you that I walk my dog about 6 o'clock every morning, and I can see the people who are trying to do something and the people that aren't. And that's what the city's going to be looking at too. And they'll simply do that by looking at how much consumption you show on your bill. They're not going to come out here and drive around our community looking for people with lush green grass and saying, oh, they're not complying. But the rule is, and they have mandated, the ordinance that will become effective July 9th is Monday, Wednesday, Friday for even numbers, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays for odd addresses. I can tell you that in between, I'm an odd address. I'm hand watering certain things on that off day. Jim, in answer to your question. I mean, can I tell you to go out and violate the mandate? No, I'm not saying that at all. Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar, is there anything anybody wants pulled? Then I'll take a motion.
I make the motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0, Tammy. Let me say most of it was appointments to committees. Safety Advisory Committee has needed a body to have a quorum, and so a previous member, Jeff Burris, has been approved as a temporary member until the original member can get back into service. He's out ill, and we have another one out of town on a family emergency, so they needed a quorum, so we did that. We want to thank Al Bisney for his long, dedicated service to the Maintenance and Landscape Advisory Committee. He has offered his resignation, but thank you, Al, very much for all your help. Gary Myerdal is filling in a term on the Landscape Advisory Committee. Are you here, Gary? Okay. Arthur Lewin, Marv Jensen, Frank DeLucci, and Bev Kreider have been appointed to the Ad Hoc Committee for Water Communication. Are all of you here? I know Frank is. We just heard him. Okay. And that's the end of the appointments. So we will move on now to old business, which there is none. Okay. What's that? Oh, well, I don't normally go over all of them, but V was just approved. That rule change about walking your dog from a wheeled vehicle it's already been approved. No, ma'am, I can't at this point. It will become effective, Jeremy, when? What's that? In 15 days. Yes, ma'am? You can ask a question, but I'm not sure we're going to answer it, but go ahead. Well, I know Kevin wants to answer it, so I'll let him do it.
Just like I told you, if your cart went and hit somebody walking down the street, the association would get sued by that person as if the person walking and tripped and fell. We had that conversation 2 days ago, Bobby, and guaranteed the association would get sued. Now, I also told you that penal code says you're not supposed to be doing that, running a dog out of a moving vehicle. So that's the bottom line. We have been sued for circumstances that where it's not our fault. We didn't have anything to do with it. But guess what? When a lawyer goes out there, they sue everybody.
Okay, well, and that is the answer. I mean, we are still the deep pocket person here, and we are going to be held liable, and we're going to be sued, and even if we win, we're still going to have court costs and so forth. Moving on, we have an architectural committee hearing. We did old business. I said none. as maybe you don't know, but as of January 1st of this year, architectural hearings that we used to have in closed sessions are now mandated that they're being held in open session. So if the architectural committee makes a ruling that the resident doesn't like, they can appeal to the board. And in the past, that's been held in executive session, but now it's not. And so we have, this is our second one, and we have a case concerning Mr. and Mrs. Janu, who want to have a problem with the zero lot line thing, and they want to do some work on the side of their house. I will let you please step up, state your case, and then we will ask you some questions and make our decision.
My name is Sarah Janu with my husband Ron, and we live at 524 Sandpiper. We're here to appeal to the board to reconsider our request to lay a cement walkway along the left side of our home, from the corner of the garage leading to a hopeful backyard gate on an existing fence. Our front property has the required greenery mandated, so ideally we concluded that it wouldn't be such a bad idea to free up the left side of vegetation so it could be maintenance-free as well. In light of our California drought and how Sun Lakers can do their part in conserving water, it made sense. Presently, there is bark in that area in question. We brought pictures to show you how similar in size and proportions the left side of these homes are to ours. Assuming those homeowners acquired permits to lay their cement walkways leading to the gate, we are asking for same privilege, a fair shake, even though Article 7, Section 7.24 of the Architectural Standards states how we, as the rightful owners and taxpayers of such property, are put in a position that limits our rights. Thank you for the chance to appeal.
Do I have any questions from the board? Kevin?
Have you already removed that area without permission from the Master Architectural Committee?
Well, we got permission from the former neighbors, not the ones that are there
No,
now.
I said the Master Architectural Committee.
I don't remember if we did or not. This was like 4 years ago. I don't remember if we did. I can't remember that part.
It's not the owner's previous right. It's the Master Architectural Committee
No,
review.
I understand that.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
We asked them because we had moles growing in there was vines.
Tons of ants.
And there was nets.
Please, no, sir, talk into the mic, please, because this is being recorded.
I'm Ron Janu, okay. What it was, the previous owner that left there, we discussed it, and we were going to paint our house, which was coming up, and we had to cut the shrubbery down. And we had to turn around, and all the time we had ants in the house and moles. And I found out why, because they were in the greenery on the ground, not the trees. I took those trees out because there were 7 trash cans full. And that's how the trees were. I had to paint my house. So now you tell me I took them out, but the only thing was wrong, me and the other people that were there, we had approval from the previous people that were on the board before all the new management is there, said you could take it out, but you'll have trouble putting it back in. Now, that's the answer I got. So now you go to the next houses who have Z lots. One's got bark just like us. The other one's got a gate on both sides of the house, which is a Z lot, and that's been okayed. Why isn't this one okay?
Well, just for the sake of the audience, Mr. Janu, there's Z-lots and zero lot line homes have specific rules and regulations, and there is always a dominant and a subservient tenant. And in this case, your neighbor is the dominant and you're the subservient. And without their permission, by CCNR, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Wilson, you cannot do this without their permission, and they categorically don't want you to do it.
But the ones that are complaining about it now weren't there when we did it. They bought the house that way.
Well, they bought the house with the current ground cover,
Yes, sir.
but they didn't buy the house with the sidewalk, and I have no idea
Yeah.
why
And
they...
and even their sidewalk is over the property line. So it's a model home. And this was there, don't get me wrong, it's a model home. And the only thing wrong, the sidewalk is not supposed to be where it's at. We're going to take the whole sidewalk out. We're going to go and redemo it, the whole thing, to make it meet your requirements.
Are there any other questions?
You haven't put the gate in yet, have you?
No, sir, we don't do it until you tell us.
Anything from you, John?
Excuse me. No, I just looking at the situation with the Z lot and looking out at that area there, where the homeowner's the dominant thing. That is basically reflects on their house. It's to their interest to see that it affects their property value as to what is done with it, and I'm sure that's the ruling. The reason for the ruling and being the dominant is determined to be the dominant dominant responsibility, I guess. I certainly wouldn't want somebody putting whatever they wanted in there in front of my front door. So I have sympathy, I guess, but I think this dominant versus subservient, if I have the word correct, is there for good reason.
Well, another thing too, when I moved in, that house 13 years ago, there was 6 eucalyptus trees planted right alongside that sidewalk, which I had to cut down because they were into my eaves of my house. And those were okayed with the architectural committee. Why? Now we're worried about a little bit of ground cover in the gate. That's the only thing I haven't done.
I think, Mr. Janu, it has to do with the dominant resident not wanting it. It makes it almost an automatic denial from the MAC when the dominant resident takes a position that they don't want you doing it. I mean, it's in
Well,
the it's in the CCNRs that way.
I know, I understand the CCNRs, but you got to remember, these were model homes. I had to take a sidewalk out in front because people were in my yard every day because it was there. It was a model house. Now, I discussed this with Jeremy. He knows what I'm talking about. We have sidewalks where people would walk in our garage because they said, oh, this is an easement. It's not an easement. And there's still some there if you want to look at them. Those 3 houses, that's all I'm talking about. They got gates on both sides. They got ground cover. That there was no people in that house, and they had ground cover put in.
Did the dominant homeowner give you any reason why they don't
They
want?
haven't even talked to us. Only person that talked to me was Heather in compliance.
So you haven't tried to talk to them either?
No, they don't want to talk to us.
So they're on vacation?
Sir, what I had a look at it is on the sidewalk, between the house and the sidewalk to the front door, they got a hedge. So when it was a model, I know very well the sidewalk was put where it would look pretty for sales. Don't bother me on that. But the only trouble is, if the sidewalk where it was, they wouldn't have that hedge along their house.
No, I understand. And again, I think the problem we have up here is it's a clear case of what the CCNRs say.
Well, then it's not complying. The sidewalk is poured across the property line. And that's the way I'm looking at it, Mr. Moyer, is because everything is done with those houses is not done the way it was because there wasn't even a plot map when I bought that house.
Okay.
And I would like to ask another question. Where do I find out that tells me when I bought it that I have to comply to the Z property line?
Well, I believe the CCNRs pretty well explain
Well, it
that.
doesn't say it on the easements for my title. It says the city of Banning. There's 3 people involved in it, and that's all. Paulty, and that's all, for maintenance only. And now you're holding me to a easement.
Well, like I say, I haven't seen that document, so I couldn't,
Sitting right here, you want to see mine.
I can't read it at this point.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
But I think we should go back and look at it, because I think nobody's been out there in person to see it, because I haven't seen nobody come to my house but Heather. And I think the architectural committee should make a little field trip, come out and look, and I'll show all 3 houses and they'll see what it is. That's all I'm asking.
Can I ask if the Master Architectural Committee wants to say anything? Would you, is there anybody that was on the Master Architectural Committee here tonight? Would you care if I heard something from them if I asked them? Did any of you have to do with this decision and why it was made and so forth? No, you need to go to the mic. I'm sorry, Bill. You don't have to, Bill, you don't have to speak. I'm just asking if you want to. Fine, thank you.
It's been before the Matt just recently said no to it. Is that correct?
They just
That's why they're here.
Yeah,
Matt denied.
I want to go back to that again.
They just turned the neighbor awareness forms were done back in April of 2015.
I was on the Matt.
Yeah,
Have you tried to talk to the, I guess it's 512, the
He-
residents at 512?
he said he didn't.
You've not talked to, you've not tried to talk to them at all? But you didn't talk to them before you started to do this? Whatever you're doing, you took sod out and,
Oh, that's been out.
okay.
Right now it's bark, and it's been bark for 3 or 4 years as I understand it. Well, I'd like to try that too. That's why I asked you that in the first place. But Jeremy thinks we should get a legal opinion since it has something to do with their rights. Okay. Table it until we do that. Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to table it until we get further information.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Basically, we're tabling it. We're not authorizing you to go ahead and put that sidewalk in? Okay. All right. Just so you're aware. No, I understand. We just don't want any complications later. Okay. We're moving on to RV Advisory Committee has 4 suggested rule changes, and the first one has to do with, let me get it up again, rules and regulations regarding leasings running from January 1 to December 31st, and it wants to add that if a leasee fails to meet the deadline, a letter of noncompliance will be mailed on December 16th, giving 30 days notice. If no action is taken by January 16th, a lease will be considered out of compliance and could be subject to fines according to the Sun Lakes Country Club Schedule of Fines and Fees, and the vehicles will be removed from Sun Lakes Country Club property in accordance with all applicable laws, Vehicle Code number 22658, at the owner's expense. Do I have a motion?
I move for approval.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 5-0, Tammy. Yeah, by the way, these are all posted for These will be posted for member comment, which means they probably won't be published until the August lifestyles, which means we won't be actually taking a formal vote on approving these until September. So the second change has to do with no resident may obtain an overnight pass for more than 6 calendar days, whether consecutive or non-consecutive. After the 6th day, the resident may not obtain another overnight pass for any registered vehicle for a minimum of 60 days without prior written approval by the Board of Directors. Any discussion? Excuse me. All in favor? So basically, 6 days and 60 days is what you get. Is that the way I'm reading this? And I'm not asking for, is there any discussion out there in the audience on any of these? Make sure I see your hand, please. That's what I'm reading. No resident may obtain an overnight pass for more than 6 calendar days, whether consecutive or non-consecutive. And once you hit the 6 days, yes, please, Bob. Once you hit the 6 days, you have to wait 60 days to get another one.
Is that just RVs?
Yes.
This proposal is already in our parking rules and regulations. All the committee is asking for is that it also be mentioned in the Sun Lakes rules and regulations for RVs. Just to clarify, we have a 6-day and 60 rule. It's not a rule change, it's an addition to an existing rule, just moving it or having it in both sections, in parking and in the RV rules.
Okay, so it's nothing new. As a matter of fact, I know it's been questioned a couple of times in the last month by at least one guy.
Well, they're finally with our new system and new people, they're addressing this problem. I ran into it again today, but it is clearly stated in the parking rules. And like I say, it should be put in the RV rules and regulations just for clarification, because I don't think anybody here has memorized all our rules and regulations.
Oh, really? Kevin, yes.
Okay, and that's been approved, so we're moving on for publication. We're moving on to number E. This is where the Recreational Vehicle Committee is suggesting that a rate increase is probably necessary, but they want us to cap that rate increase at a maximum of 7%.
That's correct. That's there hasn't been a raise in the RV lot for the last 2 years on the per foot fee. Everything is going up, and we recognize that. We're trying to be proactive and just asked it to be capped so we're not paying more than our fair share.
I'm going to make a recommendation or a motion that we deny that one based on we're moving into budget period here. We don't know what our numbers are going to be on anything, so I'm not willing to commit to that personally.
Well, actually, the way it was sent and proposed, it said if there's a rate increase at all, if it's necessary, we're requesting that it be.
And I understand that, Bob. And you know I'm not.
So what you're doing is heading us off at the budget process, so we can't raise it 10% if we want to. Basically.
I think the answer is noted.
Well, we were asked last year to discuss the rates that we were charged, and we didn't feel, seeing how all of us on the committee have an RV stored there, that might not be a good thing to do. This year we're trying to be proactive. We're not trying to create a problem.
I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
I understand what you're saying. I just think that it's a little harsh for us. I think a recommendation to us from them saying we would hope that it would not be more than 7% is more than sufficient. we understand what you're talking about, but we as a board can't really commit to saying, well, no, we're not going to cap it, or we're going to cap it at 7%.
We're not asking for that.
Okay.
Okay? We realize the difficulty it is to make a budget. Like I say, all we're trying to do is be proactive and think this is a fair increase, if in fact an increase is needed.
And I don't think if we did an increase, which probably will, it would ever get to that, but that's beside the point. We will take that under advisement.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of denying the commitment to a maximum 7% increase?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. The final one has to do with allowing non-owner occupants to lease space in the RV lot. Currently, you must be a homeowner to rent. However, we passed a rule where people now must, if they want to rent here, have to sign a year's lease, and some of those people have units that they need to store. And so it's allow them to use space on a case-by-case space availability. Go ahead and talk about it if you want to, Bob.
Well, actually, as it was submitted to the master board, and I'll read what I submitted to the master board, should we try to deal with the change in the rules and regulations to allow non-resident homeowners on a case-by-case and space-available basis to lease a spot on the lot. If you think we should pursue it, I will write and send you the rule change for your approval. This isn't something we're proposing, but we see it as maybe another way to rent some spots. And this is for non-resident homeowners. A resident has the right to store there.
Not, yeah, and this is, but they have to be residents. They're non-owner occupants, otherwise they have to be like a leaseor or somebody like that. They can't be somebody from Four Seasons.
No. Right now, you have to be a resident of Sun Lakes. We have a lot of people that lease their houses that have RVs. What I'm saying is if they own the house and we have a space for them, we should be able to take the money. They would have to be a homeowner, but not necessarily a resident.
In a matter of speaking, you could actually have 2 RVs for one residence, where the renter has a lot, a spot, and if we got this approved, the homeowner who doesn't live there could likewise have a spot.
That's
Space
true.
available.
That's
Okay.
what we're proposing.
Okay.
Yes.
Huh.
And like I say, that's not something that I sent to the master board as a rule change. I sent to it as I worded it for your advice on whether we should pursue it.
I make a motion that we pursue it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to pursue. Any further discussion?
Okay, I'm going to go home now.
Oh, no. I should have made you wait till the end, huh? Bob, I want to thank you for your trouble. I know you guys work hard at it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Moving on to G, authorization to invest reserve funds. Let me get to the right place here. EFG, there it is. We have about $300,000, and this has to do with investing strategy. The general manager would like us to invest $300,000 from the 2015 operating budget reserve assessments into the reserve accounts. We collect money every month for the reserves, as you know. It's in your assessment. It's accumulated to the point where we need to invest it in the reserves. And do you want to go into any more detail on that, Mr. Wilson? If you'd like to, go ahead. You go ahead.
Would you like more explanation?
Yes.
Okay, so Sun Lakes itself this year is coming across something it hasn't seen in 5 years. For the last 5 years, you have assessed the same amount you spent out of the reserves. generally a net no movement in your actual funds itself. So what's coming in on your assessments is going back out in projects that you're completing that were called out in the reserves. This year's a little bit different. You're assessing this year $1.6 million in reserves being placed back into the reserves, yet as you heard a little earlier, we're estimating only actually spending around $800,000. This means you're actually building your reserve asset itself, which is appropriate. You should be growing as the association grows as well, and it costs a little bit more to replace them over time. So these monies are sitting in the operating accounts. They just simply need to be moved over into reserve CDs or money markets for investment. Does that explain it?
Go ahead. Oh, well, we don't have a motion. Somebody want to make a motion, then we can have a discussion.
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay, now you can ask discussion.
Jeremy, if we approve this and give you the authority to do the investment, then you have as the investment manager, you have the authority to go either CDs or money market?
That is correct.
Okay.
You would just be approving it in line with the current investment policy.
Are there any comments or
I have another
questions
I have
anymore
another
from up
question.
here? Or, you got another one?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Do we need to formally direct whether it be CDs or the money market? And the reason I ask the question is I understand that there's a possibility of rate increases coming up from the Fed in the very near future. And I would be concerned that if we drop this into, 1 to 5 year CDs at the great rates that we're getting now, and the rates went up, we might lose out on investment possibilities.
Sure, we can certainly consider that. I mean, I'll take the direction of the board when it comes to your funds and how you want them invested.
Got
that one? Yeah, got it.
Yeah. I'd like to amend the motion to direct Jeremy to put this into money market funds for not to exceed 90 days.
Do I have a second to that amendment?
I think it's just whatever is the best.
Do we have a second? No second? No second. So the motion stands that we just, let me get back to the original, that we authorize the general manager to invest $300,000 from the 2015 operating budget reserve assessments into the reserve accounts and establish new CD purchases.
No, CD or money market, wasn't it?
That's, okay. Or money market? Okay, CD or money market. Okay. Did you get it that way, Tammy? You got it now?
That's the way Doug put it.
Okay. No discussion from the audience? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0. We've already discussed water restrictions and so forth tonight. So if you don't mind, we'll just forego that discussion.
Sure. Just want to talk about the work that the association's already done. Otherwise,
Yes, I would like to do that, if I can get it out quick.
discussion item, no action.
Okay, let me get the right, oh, here we go. Over the past 3 years, or 4 or 5 years, this board has taken a lot of action to save water even before the drought became as bad as it is. When we got the mandate for the 32% cut, we were really concerned about how we were going to do that and what it was going to take us to do that, particularly since they used the year 2013 as a cutoff, because in 2013 we used significantly less water because the irrigation ponds for the main championship golf course were closed down for months, and we didn't get any water for months. And so when they used that as a cutoff date, we were truly concerned how we were going to cut 32% off of that year when it was the lowest year we'd had in some time. We just got some recent statistics. You want me to discuss them, right?
It's up to you.
What do you think?
Just mention
That, in fact, from that 2013 number, we've actually still, because of the things we've done over the last couple of years, we're down to 30.5% under that number. On the common areas, we've had a similar number. So what I'm saying is we still need to work on saving water, but we've come a long way, and we really are much further ahead of the game than we thought we were. That doesn't mean that anybody should stop. Don't go out there and turn your sprinklers on for 20 minutes a day every day now. But it does mean that we are looking in much better shape than we thought we were, and some of the things that we've been contemplating, we can now take our time and really investigate whether they're going to be worth doing or not. So I want to commend the board, and I want to commend staff on doing a great job in helping us get into compliance or very close to it. One of the things we've done, for example, is that the common areas were on what was called WeatherTrack. Otherwise, it was automatically done by a computer based on atmosphere and what's happened in the last couple of days and temperatures and all that. And many of you saw that we were quite often running our sprinkler systems and it was raining because the WeatherTrack doesn't pick that up until the next cycle. So now we put that burden on Mr. Slyden, and he is basically overseeing a manual operation of all of our common area watering, and that's one of the reasons we've been able to cut back so much, and I think he deserves a hand too. So that's all I have. Does anybody have anything else on water? Then we'll move on to audience comments. Eve, do you still want to talk? Darlene, do you still want to talk? The city's ordinance definitely calls for a fining structure, but that will be at the very last resort. But the city has told me is the first thing they'll do if they think you're using too much water is they're going to send somebody out to talk to you and help you and see what they can do to help you cut back, okay? And then you would get a letter, and I mean there's going to be a whole due process thing, and then if you still continue just to ignore it, then there's a fining system, yes. But I don't think that anybody I've seen in here has to worry about it. That's my personal opinion. I know that they're not in a hurry to run out and start fining people. Fred, you wanted to speak, please. Fred, do you want to come up, Mr. Sakurai? You still are named Fred, aren't you?
No,
It's on.
no, it might be that,
Yep.
okay, it might be that my vision is gone and my hearing is gone also. I wanted to talk a little bit about, very little bit about this walking the dog bit. And just listening to what's going on here, it seems that there's a lady with legal counsel that says that if her dog is injured while walking the dog with a cart or something like that, she is responsible. That's fine. That's the way it should be, I think. Another man in the master board said that there is an ordinance that says that you cannot walk your dog from a moving vehicle. So why are we having all this hassle? If it's covered by legal counsel and if there's an ordinance saying you can't do it, let it go. That's the problem is fixed. So let's just let it go, and next thing you know, you'll tell us that we could only have white dogs, or you cannot use a retractable leash, or you can only buy Mazdas, you cannot buy a Honda, or you can only order certain things through main cafeteria here or whatnot. So let's just let it go. If it doesn't need fixing, don't attempt to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. That was the last speaker slip I had, so we'll move on to board comments. Want to go first, Kevin?
Well, let's talk about some other ordinances for a second here. ABC, that's alcoholic beverage control. ABC controls the sale of liquor in the footprint of the main clubhouse, all the way out to the pool, and including the sandwich going the opposite direction. Please understand that we don't want to lose our ABC license because people are coming in and bringing their own liquor into the ballroom for bingo, for shows, for whatever. It is against the law. So my saying for tonight is please understand that you can't come in a little private group, bring your coolers in with you, and drink in the clubhouse during a show or during bingo or any other event unless it's the alcohol comes from internally from our restaurant and lounge. Or the same thing with catering is also part of that issue. You can't cater unless it's done by our own in-house staff. Okay? Number two, because I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up, it's that time of the year, and we're going to have kids and grandkids going to be out here riding around in carts and driving the carts and speeding and being unaware of what's going on around them, and we have the potential for an accident. Having said that, I know we got a lot of speeders here, so I'm going to just finish with, I've heard that I'm speeding because I have to get there before I forget where I'm going. In our aging community, that's probably true. In the comments.
Dan?
I have nothing.
John?
As far as the May financials, I'll try and go through it pretty quick. Bottom line is they really came up on the positive side. Plan for May, anticipated expenses, over revenue by almost $61,000. I've rounded the numbers. The reverse actually happened, and revenue exceeded expenses by $94,000. That's a net effect of $155,000, which we were able to add to our surplus in the month. And for the 5 months, we were approximately $184,000 better than the plan anticipated. There are significant reasons for all related to expense reductions. Salary and benefits continue to be down $32,000 in the month, primarily due to open positions. Irrigating the golf courses was $60,000 less than we planned for the month. This is a combination of some rain during the month and the implementation of water-saving measures that we've talked about earlier. It's hard to believe, but right at this particular moment, we are actually better than budget as far as the irrigation water on the golf course is concerned. Maintenance of the common areas and supplies for the golf course contribute an additional $28,000 in expense reductions, although we may see some of this come back in later months. And both the golf and the food and beverage offices operations had positive variances to their projected costs for the month. Only 2 homes were transferred during the month. We plan on an average of 13, so that hurts a bit. One final note is that May included a change in how bingo revenue and expense activities reported on the books, and this was done to more accurately reflect the association's financial position. To those for whom this might be a concern, the bingo activity currently is a net surplus amounting to slightly over 0.1% of the association's revenue. Thank you very much.
Doug?
I'm just going to add a little bit to what Kevin stated in regards to golf carts. He's talking about the kids speeding and going through stop signs. Please, when you do have your guests, it doesn't necessarily always relate to kids, but adults are visiting a lot, and people give them these guests their golf carts, And these people have no clue what they're supposed to do with them. I mean, they know how to drive them, and they turn left and they turn right, and they might even signal, and they might stop. But I see them going on the golf course. I see them taking their dogs for walks on the golf course. They're everywhere, and they're not supposed to be everywhere. There are rules to where the golf cart is supposed to be. And please, if you're going to let somebody use your golf cart, explain the very basic rules, just like a car. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any Angel fans out here? We have an Angel fan. Please, no, we have a ticket for Sunday's game. Please, this lady has a ticket for Sunday's game. She has 2 of them. There's a lady right behind you. There you go. Anything I can do to help? Okay, when John was talking about water, it was just 2 months ago that we were $75,000 over budget in water. And now we're $14,000 under budget. That's what our conservation has done, and that's what water means to us in the way of cost. One of the things that we're looking at also is, and I've had one response to this request, I'm going to make it again. The state is offering funds under Proposition 1 to help communities and nonprofit organizations such as ours in drought-related issues, in grant money. And there's a lot of money up there that is, available, but we need grant writers, experienced grant writers, that can help us identify and apply for these grants. And if you have any experience at that at all, I wish you'd give me a call so we can talk about it. It really is important to us that we get some money to help us out here if we can from the state. Now, somebody asked me once why I drink beer. And I finally found out a decent answer to this, and it was actually, it was one night on Cheers when Cliff was talking to Norm, and Cliff says, well, you see, Norm, it's like this. A herd of buffalo can only move as fast as the slowest buffalo. And when the herd is hunted, it is the slowest and weakest ones at the back that are killed first. The natural selection is good for the herd as a whole because the general speed and health of the whole group keeps improving by the regular killing of the weakest and slowest members. In much the same way, the human brain can only operate as fast as its slowest brain cells. Excessive intake of alcohol, as you know, kills brain cells. Naturally, it attacks the slowest and weakest brain cells first. In this way, regular consumption of beer eliminates the weaker brain cells, making the brain a faster and more efficient machine. That's why you always feel a little smarter after a few beers. I'll take a motion. Adjourned.